Hi everyone. If you've not seen me before, my name's Steven J Humphrey, independent parliamentary candidate. See my other video blogs if you want to catch up on where I am at the moment. I've been a little bit hacked off with the cold weather because this camera doesn't work so well in the cold. Something to do with the batteries, but anyway. As you can see, we got snow, and kind of kills the climate change debate, doesn't it? The global warming, man-made global warming. How can we have global warming if this is the coldest winter for 150 bloody years, as some people think? Anyway, what have I been doing? Well, I've signed on to the Lawful Rebellion agenda through a UK column. John Hurst gave us a really good lecture about the rules of Lawful Rebellion, about the Barons Committee, which is a committee of 25 barons appointed from the House of Lords in London, Westminster, when they have no confidence in the House of Commons. And if you've seen my previous video blogs, you'll know that I've got a bug in my bonnet about how fraudulent the last general election was. And this video could go out any time because of these batteries. But anyway, I'll keep talking until we get run out. Anyway, simply because well, if we go in reverse chronological order, the simplest way to look at it is because I've called for an unfettered judicial review in the conduct of the UK general election last May. That brings the election into dispute, and one person, according to Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights, has every right to dispute a general election. And the BBC and Sky and all the media broadcasters, as well as the politicians themselves, like that traitor Cameron, have basically assumed that there is no dispute in the election, whereas I've submitted on the 9th of May a lawful dispute, a complaint against the Electoral Commission, against the result of the UK general election to the Electoral Commission, my local returning officer Pam Donovan, who incidentally is the chief executive officer of the council, so there is a conflict of interest there straight away. And so she's not a valid electoral returning officer to start with, because she works for the party. Oh, it just gets worse. Anyway, before I rant and rave about that kind of bollocks, basically since May I've been struggling to find a way to get a new general election, pure and simple, on the grounds that we're governed by traitors and war criminals, because they didn't ask us if we wanted to go to war with Iraq. Then we did, before we even got to Iraq, we were bombing the crap out of Afghanistan. Now, since when did we, the British people, go to war without the British people's consent? And I know from my own evidence that 4 million people went on the streets of London to tell them, you can't go to war. And the way I figure it, that outnumbers the pro-Zionist warmongers of the military-industrial complex, which is now, without a shadow of a doubt, totally governed by merchant bankers like Baron de Rothschild. And I've come to the conclusion, through diligent, maybe not conformist or conventional research, but research and development full stop, that the Baron de Rothschild owes allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen. Therefore, Her Majesty the Queen is the controlling mind of all this dystopian nightmare that we are witnessing every day on the news and on Facebook and YouTube, etc. et al. So basically I've just been gathering the evidence, and I just want to say for the record, we don't need any more evidence of treason, war crimes, crimes against humanity, or any other crime. We have enough. Just look, just pick a video on my playlist, the Rothschilds playlist on YouTube, at A41 Dog channel, right? And there's enough evidence to prosecute this government for fraud and, you know, parliamentary bloody... Oh. See, this is the problem. We've been bombarded with evidence. There's a saturation of evidence. Way too much evidence, right? So what they've done, this is the theory that I'm working on at the moment, is that they've bombarded us with so much information that it basically scrambles our brain. It's another left-right paradigm, as David Icke and Alex Jones and a few others would talk about, right? But two people I've found that have a clear and concise, not necessarily a plan of action, but I've got some good ideas that I want to pass over to you in the last couple of minutes of this video. Right. 1. John Hurst gives the grounds for lawful rebellion. In 1911, the House of Commons enacted the Parliament Act 1911, which basically changed the rules of the House of Lords and made it an intent of the government to destroy the House of Lords, right? Which means for 900 years, what is it, since 1215, they've been trying, on behalf of the Queen, the King, or whoever the King was at the time, to basically rewrite the Magna Carta. And there are just 3 articles of the Magna Carta that are still valid today. The rest were basically Old English for these specific problems, which then became statutes. But the one article, the Magna Carta, that you need to read is Article 61. I'll say that again. Article 61 of the Magna Carta. Start with the 1215 version. Find the 1295 version, compare and contrast, and then compare it to the modern version that's on the statute book, where there's these 3 remaining articles of association or whatever it was. But the second, but basically you can sum the Magna Carta up into 2 words. It's a peace treaty. It is peace between we the people and our king, who at the time was being an obnoxious tyrant, and the Barons Committee needed a way of ensuring that tyrants will never ever appear in British history ever again. And now look, we had Hitler in Germany, we had the Soviet in Russia in 1917 onwards, and so on and so on. Right? And now today, David Cameron is our latest fascist dictator. And for that reason alone, for the last 100 years, we have been living in a tyranny. Or the government of the day, the parliament of the day, has been consistently working towards that evil, despotic, deviant behaviour that is evil. Right? And it is, without a shadow of a doubt, evil. They have no concern for us. I mean, the latest news is Theresa May, the Home Secretary, or alleged Home Secretary, wants to buy a load of water cannons for the Met in London, so that people like me on a lawful protest get drowned. Or pushed 500 yards down the road by a fucking high-powered water cannon. My money's buying that fucking water cannon, and I say no. Right, second person. A guy called Rob Steele, an American ex-CIA manager, boss kind of person. You need to Google Rob Steele, ex-CIA or former CIA, and then you'll find his latest video and a couple of videos from a couple of years ago if he's still alive. But The stuff is owed. I've only seen it now after 3 years, and it may not be relevant, but it should inspire some good ideas, which I'll save for part 2. Alright, my name's Steven J Humphrey. I'm still calling Parliament a disputed Parliament, and thus is null and void, and I'll explain why in the next video.